Welcome to the Buffalo Sports Conversation Room. I'm your host, Jamie Malloy, and ready to talk opening week football. But first, I'd like to bring on my co-host, Joe Dalio. So without any further hesitation, here's Joe. Hey, Joe, how's it going?
It is going very, very well. Like I said backstage, great to be here. Great to be having football conversation that actually means something. We're not looking forward to a season now. We're in the middle of a season. And for 5 months now, we're going to have relevant football information to talk about. So, we have a lot of great information to provide for our audience here. And some of which might be a younger audience here, as I went back to school last week, mentioned the podcast to some of my 8th grade students who say they're going to be watching us. So if you are, guys, great to have you here. But all of our audience here, typical audience, my parents, my friends, and I'm sure you got a lot of people on your side, and plus some people that we don't even know about that we very much appreciate watching us tonight.
Yeah, and guess what? You never know who certain people might be watching too, because before we begin, we want to congratulate our friend at Driving the Top Productions, Matt Trigger, as he will be departing Driving to the Top Productions to start a new podcasting contract with Believe Network, and his podcast is going to be called Believe in the Ravens. So congratulations, man, on this opportunity. You've worked really hard here to earn it, and that's why Adam signs people like you and us to get to earn things like that, or to stay on here and keep growing. So
well deserved.
Yeah. So Joe, are you ready to talk about the Thursday night game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs? I hate to say it because they went toe to toe.
Yeah, there you go. I love it.
Let's start anyways. With the game starting 20 minutes late due to pouring rains, the ending of the game certainly didn't disappoint. With no time left on the clock, Baltimore's Isaiah Likely caught a touchdown pass from a perfect throw from Lamar Jackson that temporarily made the score 26-27 Chiefs. And keep in mind, the Ravens were going to go for 2 there. Had they got it, the call there. But after the refs reviewed it, his toe just crossed the end zone, reversing the call and ending the game, and bringing the score to Chiefs 27, Ravens 20. So, Joe, can you believe the ending of this game with Kansas City hanging on by a toe? And who knows if do you think how likely do you think it would have been that the Ravens converted that 2-point conversion if the touchdown stood and if he didn't have his toe on the line?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Now, I've been watching football for like 50 years, and I don't think I can ever see or ever say that a team lost a game by a toe. But I think that's what we could certainly say here for this game, that we don't know if they would have made that 2-point conversion. I honestly, gut feeling, I think they would have made it. Again, we'll never, ever know that. But I have a gut feeling that they would have made that and pulled the upset here. But just to miss by that much, and it was the right call. We always get on the referees and stuff like that. But this time they got it right. Again, those of us that were rooting against the Chiefs were a little disappointed there, but it was the right call and a tough ending, but an amazing game, and what an excellent way to start the regular season.
I know, and Joe, you say we don't usually get on the refs, but you read my article earlier today, and that was me getting on the refs about the Chiefs and the Ravens and comparing the Chiefs to the Brady Patriots and everything like that. But we'll get into Brady later about his Fox debut, but I just wanted to let you know.
Yeah, and that article was spot on. And again, we usually do criticize the referees. That's what I'm saying. Usually they're in the middle of controversy. But it's always nice. And I think as much as we do criticize them, and again, your article, I recommend you check it out. Mention that article because it's worth reading to our audience. But as much as we do deservedly get on the case of the referees, I think it's fair to go to the other side. They got this one right. As much as we hate to admit it, this was the correct call.
They did. And guys, I apologize for my voice right now. I know it sounds like RFK Jr., but it's just I have allergies, so I'm good.
Nah, you're doing good.
No offense to RFK, I like him, by the way. But anyway, this is a sports show. Let's move on. Moving on to the Friday night game in Sao Paulo, Brazil, which is St. Paul, Brazil in Portuguese, where the Philadelphia Eagles beat the Green Bay Packers, as Chris Berman would say, 34-29 in Saquon Barkley's debut with the Eagles. Now I'm going to turn it over to Joe, since I don't have Peacock or the 12 different streaming services that buffer all the time and didn't see the game. So go ahead, Joe, take us away. What did you see in that game?
All right. So I was able to watch this game and it went late and I wasn't able to watch, in its entirety. Usually on a Friday night, I'm absolutely exhausted and lucky I was able to stay up to the start time, never mind the end time. But another solid game between two great teams, two Super Bowl contenders. Now, I've said it before, and I think you've agreed, and I complain a lot. I am sick and tired of these international games. First of all, I'd much rather see a game in Philadelphia or Green Bay. I forget who the home team. I think the Eagles were the home team here. Yeah. But still, I'd much rather watch a game from Philadelphia than from Brazil. If it's a soccer game, that's one thing. This is NFL football, and I want to see these games in the NFL stadiums. I can understand wanting to build the game around the world and make it an international thing, but the same thing keeps happening all the time. They play on crappy fields. All I saw while I was watching this game, and I had a good stream, thank you, is grass popping up, players slipping on an awful field, and we're lucky there wasn't a whole bunch of major injuries here. It happens in London. Matt Milano, I think one of the big reasons he got hurt last year was because they played on a crappy field. They wouldn't even give us the grass field. It's Tottenham Soccer Stadium, a beautiful field. I watch Premier League soccer and I watch games from that stadium. It's an amazing stadium. It's a great field. But they wouldn't let us play. Not only are we playing these games in England, they're not letting us even play on the good turf. They pulled the garbage out, and it's inviting injuries. And of course, Milano had a major injury that he missed, the last 3 quarters of the season. If you didn't know already, Jordan Love had an injury in this game, and it could have been a major injury. It turns out that he's only going to miss, 3 or 4 games instead of a full season like we thought initially he would. But again, it was such a crappy field, and every time you look, there's chunks of field coming up. There's guys slipping for no reason. And again, I'm just sick of it. I almost to the point where I'm not even going to watch these games anymore. The ones that are played in foreign countries. And again, nothing against them. Again, this is probably an amazing soccer field, but it's not an NFL football field. And so we shouldn't be playing games there. And to me, I feel strongly about that. It's too bad because Jordan Love had an excellent game before that. He threw for 260 yards. Some guy named Jaden Reed all of a sudden came out of nowhere. He had 138 yards receiving and a touchdown. And, Jalen Hurts he had typical positive and negative. He threw for 278 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he ran quite well too. But he also had 2 interceptions and 2 fumbles, one of which he lost. So, that's going to have to be cleaned up. I really think Jalen Hurts is going to have an excellent season this year. Last week,
no, he cut off. Joe?
Yep. Oh, am I good?
You cut off. What were you going to say?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. If Jalen Hurts plays well, I mean, they're going to do well. But if some guy named Saquon Barkley plays like he played here, I think the Eagles are going to be in great shape. I mean, Barkley had 3 touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, and 1 receiving, over 100 yards rushing. And other guys showed up too. A.J. Brown. He was quiet at first. I'm like, where is he? You know, I had him as a prop to score a touchdown, and he wasn't doing anything at first, but ended the game with 5 receptions and 119 yards, including a 67-yard touchdown reception there. So he got me the touchdown. I won a couple of pennies there. So good for him. And also Devontae Smith, not too bad also, with 84 yards receiving. So again, another high quality game here. But again, this game would have been so much better if it was in Philadelphia than if it was in Brazil. So, you know, I hate to be a sourpuss, and if you disagree with me, I see where you're coming from. Again, it's great to build the game in other places around the world, but you're going to get players seriously hurt. And I think we're lucky that Jordan Love, one of the premier players in the game and up and coming, you know, superstars here, we're lucky that he wasn't hurt a lot more badly than he already was. So do you agree with that? I mean, what do you think about these international games, and is there a place for them, or should we just end this right now?
I think we should totally end it right now, but unfortunately, Goodell says he wants to have 16 international games because he already to double that because he already has 8. But I think we should get rid of them because the guys are getting hurt like this. And remember, this is the same league that talks about player safety and all that too.
Yeah, they obviously don't care about player safety if they're going to keep doing that.
Yeah, of course not. But yeah, so moving on to our favorite game of the week, the Sunday 1:00 game, the Arizona Cardinals versus our Buffalo Bills at Highmark Stadium. Okay, so here we go. With the Bills trailing 17-3 in the second half, Josh Allen led the team to a touchdown drive to Khalil Shakir to cut the deficit to 17-10. The Bills then opened up the third quarter with a time-consuming drive to tie the game at 17. An Arizona fumble caused by Greg Rousseau. Pay the man, please. Edge rushers get paid now. Lead to a Bills touchdown to bring the Bills' first lead to 24-17. Arizona marched down to only capture a field goal to bring the score to 24-20. Buffalo then scored a long touchdown drive to make it 31-20. On the ensuing kickoff, DJ Dallas took the ball all the way for a touchdown, about 84 yards, to bring the score 31-28 after making a 2-point conversion. The Bills then ran the clock down to the 2-minute warning, and then Tyler Bass, we all were worried about missing the field goal last year against Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have a problem. This one is he adds the last field goal, and it's good. The Bills win the game 34-28. So, Joe, what do you think of the Bills' slow, erratic start but big finish?
Now, it's a little concerning. Now, first of all, if you watched last week's show, you heard it here first. Or this was last week or our first show. You were talking about Tyler Bass. And Jamie, you're one person who was not worried about Bass at all, because I asked that question on the show, and you seem to have a lot of confidence in him. And certainly he proved you right there. So I just wanted to bring that up. You know, the slow start was a little concerning, and, you know, it extended a little bit. I was like, the start I wasn't too worried about. But as this game's going on, I'm thinking to myself, they're not going to lose this game, are they? Some doubt started creeping in. But, a win's a win. We always say that. Could the Bills have played better? Of course they could have. But, and what concerned me at first, too, is remember we were talking that first preseason game. Now, I know there's a big difference between game one and the regular season and game one of the preseason. But the Bills showed up for that first preseason game totally unprepared and not ready. And in the beginning stages of this game, I'm like, oh no, didn't they learn their lesson from that? Is this possibly another situation where McDermott didn't have this team ready to play against a subpar opponent? And that was going through my mind a little bit. But they figured it out, and guys played up until their their capabilities here. And I got some things here too that I mentioned. Like Josh Allen had an excellent game, not only throwing for 232 passing yards and a couple of touchdowns, but also rushing for 2. He ran the ball 9 times. So still, if you were thinking Josh Allen wasn't going to be running the ball that much going forward, that doesn't seem to have changed. Other guys had good games, not great. James Cook, 71 yards rushing, but he did have also 32 yards receiving. So, some good stats there. Like last year, basically what drove Stephon Diggs out of town is the receiving by committee system that the Bills had. 9 different receivers caught passes in this game, and 10 were targeted. Shakir and Mac Hollins had a touchdown each. And one thing that surprised me a little bit, though, is Dalton Kincaid only had 2 targets the entire game, and he only had 1 reception for 11 yards. I think we'll see a difference there going forward. I was also curious about some things like our hotshot new receiver, Keon Coleman. And, he didn't really get too much of an opportunity in the preseason and wasn't exactly, lighting it up when he did. But I like the game he had. He led the team in receiving yards, only 51, but still, when you're 9 different guys are getting the ball, 51 yards is pretty good, 4 receptions. But I thought he was pretty impressive, actually, because some of those were tough catches. Now, you were talking about Greg Rousseau and pay the guy. I'm not exactly sure what the record is for sacks in an NFL season. It's like mid-20s, I'm thinking. He's currently on pace for like 51 because he had 3 sacks in this first game. Now, we know he's not going to go on a pace of 51 sacks or end up with 51 sacks, but still, to open the season with 3 sacks, and you said, he caused a fumble as well, and the dude was all over the place. Amazing game by Greg Rousseau. So he's playing like he wants to get paid. And if he continues that, the Bills, I think, are going to have no choice. Other people stood up too. Terrell Bernard, 10 solo tackles, which is very good, 11 overall. Cam Lewis, 7 solo tackles and 10 overall. And some guy you may have heard of named Von Miller, he stepped up with a sack. So good to see him getting in the action and coming back. We were saying that it would be nice to have a little bit of a comeback season from him. And so far, so good. Nice to get a sack. And, he seemed kind of quiet, but, we'll take anything we can get from him. Nice kick return, too, talking about that new kickoff rule. Now, the bad news is teams are still, they don't care that the ball is coming out to the 30-yard line. They're just, pounding it into the end zone, not letting people return kicks. But when they do, again, Brandon Codrington of the Bills with a 53-yard kickoff return. So teams might think twice about letting him return kicks. So, slow start, yes. Not the best overall performance, yes. And again, this was an inferior opponent, and maybe against a good team, the Bills don't pull this one out. But I figured this game was going to be close. The point spread was like 6.5, and I honestly thought Arizona would cover it, and they did. But still, no surprise that the Bills won this game. And I think maybe in the back of their minds, they're thinking they have a big divisional game coming up this week, and maybe they were looking ahead to that a little bit too. So a win's a win. We'll take it, and they can hopefully fix up some of these things that didn't go well in this game and get it done in time for this upcoming Miami game.
Exactly. You can watch that game. and stream it on Amazon Prime if you have it Thursday night, starting at 7 o'clock. All the coverage starts then. So
Now, I think in the Buffalo area, I think we get the game on local TV. I don't know if you do in Rochester, but you don't?
no, but I have Amazon Prime.
I do too, but I think people in the Buffalo area will get it within a certain radius of, of Orchard Park. We'll get that game on local TV too. I think so. I'm not 100%. Hopefully, I'm not wrong about that. And again, I have Amazon.
13 Wham Rochester's not allowed to cover it. It would be Channel 8 local if they could, but they don't have any jurisdiction to do it.
I got you. Okay. But like I said, I mean, we have Amazon Prime. We'll certainly get to watch that game.
Yep. So now turning our attention to the 4 p.m. Dallas Cowboys taking on the Cleveland Browns at home. With the Cowboys coming out strong from the very beginning and Dak Prescott fresh off getting his new contract, the boys came out ready to play. Hold up. We them boys. Deshaun Watson was pretty much under distress most of the day as Dallas's defense was all over him and the team was making plays left and right. The Dallas starters held the Cleveland Browns to under 20 points while the offense racked up over 30, making the score 33-17. So, Joe, do you think that the Cowboys are going to be legit this season? I know we hear Dak hears the same thing every year that, the Cowboys win the division. They're a regular season team and they don't show up in the playoffs. But now he got his contract, and I think he's got more of a feistier attitude to him now, saying, I want to win a Super Bowl now. It's really my team now that I got paid. So what do you think about the Cowboys?
Yeah, a bunch of guys are getting paid by the Cowboys, right? CeeDee Lamb got his contract done a little bit before that. Dak Prescott, now the highest player ever. So I think that's good for the Cowboys. I still think the Eagles win that division, but I do see the Cowboys in the wild card, perhaps making some noise. I don't think this year, but now that the Dak's there long term, CD's going to be there a little bit, and they obviously have money to spend. So it's Dallas and Jerry Jones and that, but I think that the defense is what really impressed me in this game, and their defense is already good. It was already good before this, and I think they're only getting better. So again, I think Dallas is a good team this year. I think a wild card. I think maybe they win a game in the playoffs, but I don't think they go far this year. But look out for them in the next couple of seasons coming ahead. As far as the Cleveland Browns, and I hate to get political here, and I hate to, to splash negativity here, but there's something called justice in the universe here. And I think Deshaun Watson and the Browns are going to discover what justice is. Now, Deshaun Watson, we know he sexually assaulted a bunch of women. He didn't get in trouble for it. And now another report, he just got sued again for another one. And he didn't get punished for it in the courts. But he's going to get punished for it on the field. He's not what people thought he was. He's not a good football player. And again, justice is going to come around and take over in this situation. And the Browns were stupid enough to sign him to this 1,000-year contract and pay him billions of dollars. And this is what they get for doing that. Okay. So they're still going to be a decent team this year. I could see them maybe winning 9 games. I'm not so sure after this performance, but they're going to come in last place in the division only because I think that AFC North, again, is one of the best divisions in football. But you know what? I think this is the start, certainly with an exclamation point in this game, of justice being served to a quarterback that doesn't belong in the league and to a team that was dumb enough to get him and keep him in the league. So, again, I'm not going to focus on that. I'm going to focus on the other side with the Cowboys that made themselves look like a Super Bowl team in that game and put an exclamation point on it. And I'm very curious to see. The Cowboys were the most dominant team at home last year. And now they're opening up at home against the New Orleans Saints, who looked very impressive the other day. But I think the Cowboys are going to be up for that game. I think they get off to a very strong 2-0. But again, I think they're going to hit some bumps in the road. They're going to play some good teams later on. And again, they'll be a good team, but not a great team this year.
That's a fair assessment. Like you said, they've got all the time in the world now. They can really change the narrative of this team. You put all the past far behind, and you just move on into the future because of that contract. It's all about the future now for the Cowboys. Each game now, all the Dak struggles in the past are over with. I feel like now that he's got that contract, so you just keep plugging along, keep chugging along now, and things work itself out. I feel like.
Yeah, the key is that he's got to stay healthy. He can't get hurt. And as long as he stays healthy, and Lamb and some of these other guys, the defense stays healthy, don't be surprised if this team's a Super Bowl contender like next year and going forward. Maybe it's this year. Who knows? I don't think so. Again, I think they make the playoffs, but next couple of years, look out for the Cowboys.
I think so too. And like I said, I think Jerry Jones, you can say what you want, but I think he's finally getting smart in terms of spending his money, because he could have went out and got a bunch of free agents like he usually does. But now he's kind of going back to what worked for him in the 90s, is drafting, developing, and re-signing your core players to long-term deals. That's what they're kind of doing now. And this offseason, I think, was the start of that. I think that Green Bay Packer loss was the final nail in the coffin. And I think that one really got to Jones more than previous years.
Yeah, that's one of the worst losses in their history, not only by the score, but just the impact. That was their Super Bowl chance at the moment, and they failed miserably, and everything fell apart in that one game. And yeah, again, that was a crushing blow that I'm surprised Mike McCarthy is still coaching. And I give the Cowboys credit. I'm surprised he's still coaching the team. I'm surprised in a way that they gave Dak this contract. So, nothing against Prescott, because again, he is the type that I think can lead them. And you mentioned it a couple of minutes ago. He seems to have that attitude now, that positive leadership attitude that, you know what, I accept the responsibility of being the leader to take this team to the Super Bowl. So I like that. It's good to see somebody like him. He's grown, he's still good at what he does. But I like the fact for the Cowboys, I obviously am not a Cowboys fan, but, to see a player like that grow and to be willing to not say, okay, I got my contract and now I can sit back and relax. Instead, it's the opposite. Now I got this contract. Now let me be the one that leads this team to the promised land.
Mm-hmm. We all can grow every single day, which is a good thing. And Dak's learning that. And congratulations to Dak on having his baby, or him and his partner having a baby girl, and naming the girl after his late mother, who passed away from cancer. So I thought that was very nice of you, Dak, to do that.
Yeah, I didn't even know about that, but that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So anyway, now let's talk about the Sunday night game. We've been waiting all day for Sunday night. The Los Angeles Rams at the Detroit Lions, rematch of last year's wild card playoff game, in which the Lions squeaked it out against Matthew Stafford and the Rams. Did Matthew Stafford and the Rams get revenge this time? Let's get into it. What turned out to be an exciting ending, the Lions up 17-3 in the third quarter with 10:29 left, were suddenly watching their double-digit lead diminish. The Rams fought back with a touchdown that led to 17 unanswered points, taking a 27 lead in the fourth quarter. My fantasy football kicker and another UFL hero kicker from the UFL, Jake Bates, came in with 17 seconds left to tie the game 2020. UFL.
I thought of you. I thought of you when that happened.
First, Brandon Aubrey, now is it Jake Bates? We'll see. In overtime, David Montgomery, Alabama, ran for a 1-yard touchdown in overtime to bring the final score to 26-20 Detroit. So, Joe, what did you think about that exciting finish?
Yeah, two great teams, obviously met in the playoffs last year. They got that quarterback connection there. Both quarterbacks played great. Matthew Stafford threw for over 300 yards in that game. A player that impressed me, I felt a flashback all the way back many years to 2021 and 2022. Some guy named Cooper Kupp. A couple of years ago, he was the best receiver in the game. And we saw that here. This was like 2021 Cooper Kupp or 22. 14 catches for 110 yards. Now, unfortunately, it came, he did great, and they're going to need him because Puka Nacua, who was the receiving star last year, had a little trip up. And I guess he had a knee issue before this game. I didn't realize that. I saw him go out and, had a couple of props on him with that. The sports books were nice enough to waive because he got hurt and got out of the game. They didn't have to do that. But anyway, sad to see him. He's on injured reserve now, so he's out for a month or so. Hopefully he can come back. But again, Cooper Kupp, if he's playing like he did a couple of years ago, the Rams will be in good shape in the receiving game. On the Lions side, how about Jameson Williams? 121 yards receiving. And had a touchdown as well. And then again, you mentioned Montgomery, Alabama, and Gibbs there, each with a touchdown for the Lions. Now they scored all these points with Amon St. Brown and Sam Laporta only catching 7 passes between the two of them. St. Brown only had 3. That's my fault, everybody, because he's on my fantasy team. So there you go. Laporta only had 4 catches the whole game. So they did all this, with what do you call Montgomery, Gibbs, Jameson, Williams, people that you wouldn't have expected. On defense, how about this? Alex Anzalone was all over the field, 11 tackles, and made a few great plays there. So that was one of those games where you had 2 good teams playing excellent football. You hate to see a team lose that game because both teams deserve to win it, and both good teams played up till their full capability. So that's one of those games that, as a neutral observer, are very fun to watch. And we definitely got a great game to watch on Sunday night.
You betcha we do, Joe. And so what I think is interesting is, first of all, we have a comment from one of your students. I think his name is Rory, and he said, "Hey, Mr. Dalio."
Welcome, Rory. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, thank you, Rory. It's nice to get to know one of your teacher's students on here doing and thanks for listening in on this podcast. We appreciate it and commenting.
Definitely.
So
we'll get some extra points tomorrow.
So now lastly, talking about the Monday night New York Jets taking on the San Francisco, or as you say, Joe, the Santa Clara 49ers.
Yeah.
With Aaron Rodgers making his second debut with the Jets, Jets. They couldn't get any ground game or really take flight in this one. Brock Purdy played well and took his team to a 32-19 win. So, Joe, what do you think of this game? And I think it was funny that Robert Saleh said in the press conference that 0-1 this year with Rodgers healthy feels better than 1-0 last year with Rodgers being hurt. I feel like they kind of treated this more as a preseason game to protect Rodgers. But the good news is Tyrod Taylor got to come in and mop up duty, and he threw a touchdown pass. Anyway, what were your thoughts about that whole game?
Yeah, now I was wondering, I didn't see the end of the game. I fell asleep before the end of the game, and I was wondering why I saw Rodgers, because I was about to make a comment here that Rodgers, it's great to have a full game from Aaron Rodgers. And then I looked at the stats. It's like, wait a minute, they didn't get a full game from Aaron Rodgers. So I was wondering, why did they take him out? Do you know?
It was 32-13. They put the whole second string in. It was
Okay.
Mop-up duty time.
Okay. But I agree with that comment from Saleh because and interesting to see him go back to his old stomping grounds there in Santa Clara, right? He came from the
Mhm.
49ers before coaching the Jets. So it was great to see him back there. And I agree with that comment. If I'm a Jets fan, you know what? I'll take a loss. I mean, I thought the Jets would play better. I thought this would be a much closer game. I thought, I could see maybe the 49ers winning this game by about 6 or so. But I think that the Jets are going to be disappointed with their performance. I think one of the big reasons that it didn't go well is Brees Hall didn't have one of his typical games, and I think that's because the 49ers were really keying on him. Now, an interesting comment that was made before, our colleague Dylan on our network here, who we'll be seeing in a week or so, a couple of weeks, I think, he made an excellent point. Now, there's a lot of money going into fantasy football and injuries, and right, isn't the NFL or teams in the NFL supposed to report injuries? So why are we finding out like an hour and a half before this game that Christian McCaffrey is not playing? I don't know. I think that's something that needs to be looked into. However, if you're a San Francisco 49ers fan, based on this performance, who needs Christian McCaffrey? You got a guy named Jordan Mason who had 147 yards rushing and a touchdown yesterday. So, no, we're not ready to compare him to Christian McCaffrey just yet. But it's nice to know you got somebody like that if McCaffrey, is still out next week or for some reason, or, if he goes down later in the season or he just needs a little bit more rest. If Jordan Mason is going to play like this, I think that puts the 49ers in a great spot, to rely a little bit less on McCaffrey, who's getting older and who's, more prone to injury, I guess, So we'll see. But, I thought Dylan was right about that. Why are we finding out an hour or two before this game that, McCaffrey's not playing? So I think that needs to be looked into. But otherwise, the 49ers definitely showed up. And, the stats weren't that impressive, but just a solid performance. And, again, I think the Jets will be a little disappointed, but I think the Jets, again, are going to be an excellent team down the road. One concern, though, if I'm a Jets fan, is they're supposed to be built on defense. And that defense didn't look so hot last night. So that's going to be something that it'd be interesting to see. And if the Jets are going to improve down the road, that defense is going to have to live up to the expectations.
Yeah, exactly. But Robert Saleh did say he's a defensive guy. He'll get that. He'll definitely get that going. And remember that defense he ran in San Francisco, like I said, was exactly what the 49ers run too. So they know a little bit of each other's tendencies there.
Right. And I agree with that. I think the Jets defense will be fine, especially with the defensive specialist coach there in charge. So we'll see.
Yeah, and guess what? Once McCaffrey comes back, they'll have a 1-2 punch. Like you said, they don't have to give McCaffrey all the touches like they've been doing the past few years. They'll actually have a 1-2 combo now.
Right. And that's only going to help their offense.
Mm-hmm. So, anyway, guess what, Joe?
Is it that time?
Yes, it is now that time in our show for a question of the week segment. So, Joe, would you like to give it a try?
Yes, I'm 1 for 2 so far. So let's get back on the other side of 500.
Okay, Joe, here's your question this week. Can you guess this NFL player? He has the most kick returns for touchdowns. Is it Cordell Patterson, Percy Harvin, Devin Hester, or Josh Cribbs?
Whew. I'm not 100% on this one, but I believe out of all those names, it seems like the one that was feared the most was Devin Hester. So I am going to go with Devin Hester as my guess.
Nope, it was Cordell Patterson.
Cordell Patterson. Okay. Was there a big difference? I don't know if you have the information there, but was there a big difference between him and Hester?
No, I didn't have the information, but all I know is Cordell Patterson's like your He could do it all. He could play receiver, kick return, and be a Deebo Samuel wide receiver / running back in the backfield for Pittsburgh. And I'm glad, and Adam's probably glad they have him now because they beat the Falcons this week with Justin Fields starting.
Yeah, and Fields played pretty good too.
Yeah, so I think Adam will take that win. We'll see. I mean, their defense played well. Justin Fields learning a new offense, but I think he's going to end up being the starter. And they're saying he's probably going to start this week again too. So
I was very curious about that. If Fields played well, which he did, and it got him a win, would he end up, keeping the starting job? Maybe Wilson going down, nothing against him, was a blessing for the Steelers. And I think if the Steelers get this kind of performance every week from Justin Fields, they're going to be in good shape.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, Joe, I'd like to chat about some interesting topics that have been going around the NFL. So, Josh Cribbs, Rory. No, that wasn't the answer, but he was a good kick returner with the Browns. So, thank you for that comment, Rory.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Don't feel bad because I got it wrong too.
Mm-hmm. Now I'd like to chat about some interesting topics going around the NFL. Now that the Cowboys have signed CeeDee Lamb last week to a $34 million contract, making him the second highest non-quarterback paid, and finally paying Dak 4-year deal worth $240 million, the highest paid player on Sunday. Joe, do you think the Cowboys will be signing Micah Parsons anytime soon?
I don't think anytime soon. I think you can only do so much. And when you pay a guy the richest contract in NFL history, I think you need to pull in the reins a little bit, even if you're the Dallas Cowboys. We talked about this on our baseball podcast all the time. And a team like the Yankees, who, again, we're always known for free spending and probably have more money than anybody in Major League Baseball to spend, even in this day and age in Major League Baseball, have to be careful. There's future people that you need to sign, and you do have to be at least somewhat financially responsible. And I think the Dallas Cowboys are in that situation now. I think, they just signed CeeDee Lamb to this big contract. They just signed Dak Prescott to this contract. And these are, again, contracts I think that were smart and that had to be made. I think that the Cowboys are better for it. But I think now maybe you got to hold off a little bit. Now, I still think they're going to sign him eventually, but I don't think he'll be signed until, after this season is over. I think that one is not going to happen right away. I'll be very impressed if he is. But, you do have to take care of the other side of the ball too. So, that's important. I do think they sign him, but I don't think it happens until next offseason.
Right. I agree with that. And like I said, this year he's playing on a 5th-year option. There's no rush to get it done, so they can wait till next year. But he's the quarterback of the defense. You got to get this deal done eventually, though.
I think they know that.
Right. They do know that.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, keeping with the Cowboys theme, how do you think Tom Brady did in his first broadcasting role with Kevin Burkhardt with the Cowboys taking on the Cleveland Browns on Fox's 4:00 game Sunday? I thought he was at least pretty smart, articulate. He was poised and he flowed really well. But one thing I think he's definitely the anti-Troy Aikman in terms of he kind of favors the Cowboys a little bit more, whereas Troy Aikman doesn't really like or pretends to not like the Cowboys.
Right. Yeah. Now I thought, first of all, I don't like the fact that they, dropped Greg Olsen. I thought Greg Olsen's excellent. Now I know he's on like the second broadcast or whatever, but I think he got shafted because Greg Olsen was turning out to be one of the top commentators and analysts in the NFL. So if I'd be him, I'd be a little ticked off. Now Brady, I thought he started a little slowly. I thought, he's trying to find his way. He's smart. We all know that. And I thought, okay, eventually, he's going to get good. But as the game went on, he made some really smart comments. Like, for example, Cleveland had like a billion penalties in that game. And he made a comment, Brady made a comment that it's like, you know what? I don't think I would have thought of this. It's very logical. And he made the comment about how, when you're getting a 10 or 15-yard penalty, it's not just losing those yards. It's not just having to go back 10 yards. But what's happening is it also complicates the next plays because you're getting second and long and third and long. And now instead of making it an easy play, especially a guy for like Deshaun Watson, who was struggling, obviously, now it's just making his job that much more difficult. So I guess you can't blame this all on Watson here, because when you're getting penalties like that, he made a very smart comment that it's not just you're going back 10 yards, but now you got to be more complicated. You got to be more precise, where you can't just dump a little 5-yard pass to somebody and have them run. You have to pass down the field. And when you're not at your best and you're not at your most accurate and guys are being covered very well, then that it just makes it that much more difficult in a situation like that. So something along those guys. He made a couple other comments like that it's like, ooh, you know what? I didn't really think of that. And that makes a lot of sense. And that's what you want with these guys. I mean, everybody who's watching the game can see what's going on. But, and that's why I love, Tony Romo is like my favorite analyst out there, because he's got the crystal ball in the booth and he'll say, okay, if they want to get this first down, they got to make the end around to the left. And what happens the next play is the team goes around to the end around to the left and they get the first down. That's stuff that we don't see in the game, and you need the analysts for. And I think Brady, more and more as we go along, is potentially going to be that kind of analyst. He's going to say things that, you know what, I wouldn't have thought of that. Maybe I didn't see that when the play was happening. So that's what you want in an excellent analyst. And I think a guy like Brady is smart enough to learn quickly to provide that information. So again, as much as I don't like the fact that, it's God Brady that all of a sudden gets elevated to king status here, and Greg Olson, who is the best on Fox and analyzing, all of a sudden just gets the boot, or not gets the boot, but gets basically demoted. I didn't like that, but on the positive side, I think Brady's going to do an excellent job with it overall.
I think so too. Hey, he may have killed our team for the past 2 decades, but he was a great quarterback. He was a winner, and he's going to be a great broadcaster too. He already knew the plays as a quarterback, and I think he's going to know him as the announcer. Like you said, the Tony version of Tony Romo on Fox.
Right. Yeah. Don't be surprised.
Yeah. So anyway, before Sunday's home opening game versus the Jacksonville Jaguars, Tyreek Hill was pulled over for a traffic violation about a block from Hard Rock Stadium. Several teammates saw the incident and stopped to show their support. Hill was videotaped being handcuffed by the police. But body cam video released by the police show a totally different account than what Hill said that happened. Hill was very uncooperative with the police when asked a second time to roll down his window, which led to the police forcing him out of the car to the ground and handcuffing him. Once the ordeal was cleared up, Hill was given 2 traffic citations, one for a seatbelt violation and careless driving. At no time was he ever under arrest. I saw many videos from both sides of the story, and in my opinion, had Hill just gotten out of the car and complied in the first place when the police asked to, this wouldn't have escalated to a big problem, and it would have been really a nothing burger. So, Joe, what do you think? Because think about it, it looked aggressive and everything, but you got to remember this is the Florida police. This isn't the New York police or the LA police. They actually care about crime or stopping crime in Florida, and Tyreek wasn't complying. Do you think he should have complied?
Yeah, I think you said it exactly. They're not the New York police or the LA police, or shall I say the Louisville police. At first, the first thing I'm thinking here is this another Scotty Scheffler situation here? But there's always 2 sides to every story. And I think exactly as you said, I completely agree. If the dude would have just complied and did what they asked him to do, I think it would not have been blown up out of proportion. You know, do you think Tyreek Hill has enough money to pay a simple speeding ticket or reckless driving ticket? I think we all know the answer to that. So I think he overcomplicated it. It doesn't seem like it's a situation, again, like Scotty Scheffler in Louisville, or, you know, a situation where the police take advantage of a celebrity here or something like that. I think it was just do what you're supposed to do, keep your mouth shut, and, you know, let it play out, pay your fine or do whatever you got to do and move on and play the game and move on from there.
Mm-hmm. So moving on. Well, it looks like we come to the end of our show. So, Joe, where can we find you in the social media world on Tuesday, September 10th, 2024?
All right. I am on X. Admittedly, I haven't been paying too much attention to my X account here and putting stuff on. I got to start posting again. But Joe Dell Sports on Twitter, X there. You can find me on social media.
Yep. And then you can find me on Bills Chat 1 at Bills Mafia Chat, and also at Jamie Malloy, the unbiased journalist, at DJ Dog Tags and forkball.com, where I write about all sports. Don't forget to follow, to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Driving to the Top Productions. And remember to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. And for more content on Driving to the Top Productions, including the open mic night, which I'll be going on as soon as this show wraps up, please visit our YouTube, Twitch stream, or Facebook stream, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you very much for listening. And remember, folks, NFL games can literally be decided by one toe in or one toe out. Josh Allen tumbled his way like Simone Biles did in the Olympics to help the Bills win their first home game, and it was an Olympian effort by Josh Allen. Maybe Tyreek Hill should slow down and wear a seatbelt while traveling to his home games. Tyreek Hill, I know you're called the cheetah, but you got to be a cheetah on the field. You can't be a cheetah in these type of situations. I still love you, man. You're a great football player, but be fast on the field and be smart with decisions like this. And to quote our friend Chris Berman, nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. See you next week, folks.
All right. Good night, everybody.